affecting supply. To think about, how does the government affect supply and demand schedules in the U.S. economy? What are the advantages and disadvantages to consumers when the government intervenes in the economy? Supply. Supply refers to the various quantities of a good or service that producers are willing to sell at all possible market prices. Supply can refer to the output of one producer or to the total output of all producers in the market. Producers offer different quantities of a product depending on the price that buyers are willing to pay. Supply is slightly more difficult to understand because most of us have little direct experience on the supply side of the market. Supply is derived from a producer's desire to maximize profits. Like quantity demanded, quantity supplied varies according to price, but in the opposite direction. As the price of a good rises, the quantity supplied rises, and the quantity demanded falls. As the price falls, the quantity supplied falls, and the quantity demanded rises. The law of supply holds that other things equal, as the price of a good rises, its quantity supplied will rise, and vice versa. Table 2 lists the quantity supplied of rental videos for various prices. At $5, the producer has an incentive to buy 50 videos. If the price falls to $4, quantity supply falls to 40, and so on. The figure titled Supply Curve plots this positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. The law of supply holds that producers will normally offer more for sale at higher prices and less at lower prices. Higher prices mean higher profit for producers. Higher profits are an incentive to produce more. A supply schedule is a table that shows the quantities producers are willing to supply at various prices. A supply curve is a graphical depiction of a supply schedule plotting price on a vertical axis and quantity supplied on the horizontal axis. Supply is slightly more difficult to understand because most of us have little direct experience on the supply side of the market. A supply schedule, shown as graph, is a supply curve. In the graph, prices are listed on the vertical axis and quantities on the horizontal axis. If the producer can raise the price and sell the number of goods while holding costs constant, then profits increase. Unlike a demand curve, a supply curve normally slopes upward. This reflects the fact that suppliers are generally willing to offer more of a product at a higher price and less at a lower price. Businesses provide goods and services hoping to make a profit, that is, money left after expenses. Businesses try to sell at prices high enough to cover their costs with some profit left over. Profit is when business owners' primary motive, it's called the profit motive, and they can use their profits in various ways, maybe to increase wages or hire new workers. They can invest it back into the business by purchasing new space or equipment. Most of them keep the profit for themselves. Profit is the difference between revenue and cost. If the producer can raise the price and sell the same number of goods while holding costs constant, then profits increase. Market supply. The market supply is the total of the supply schedules for all providers of the same good or service. The market supply curve slopes upward like individual supply curves do. This upward slope shows that all producers in the market would prefer to offer more of the product for sale at higher prices and less at lower prices. Price has the most influence on the quantity supplied. For example, you will probably be willing to supply more of your labor at a high price than a low one. Other factors also affect supply. If any factors change other than price, a change in supply will occur. That is, the entire curve will shift. Changes in supply. A change in supply occurs when producers offer a different quantity of output at each possible price. This might happen because of changes in the cost of production, in government policies, in the number of producers, or in the expectation of businesses. When supply goes down, the supply curve shifts to the left. When supply goes up, the supply curve shifts to the right. Some other factors that change the supply curve could be change in input costs, change in technology, and a change in the size of the industry. Influencing production. Businesses use the four factors of production to produce goods and services. Therefore, if they increase or decrease, it affects the business. When prices of these resources fall, cost of production falls. Producers are then willing and able to offer more of the product for sale at each price. The supply curve shifts to the right. When prices of resources rise, production cost rises. Producers are then willing and able to offer less of the product for sale at each price. The supply curve shifts to the left. An example could be if a furniture manufacturer may increase production if lumber costs fall. Additionally, chicken farmers may boost chicken output if feed costs decline. The reduction in feed costs shifts the supply curve for chicken to the right. Productivity is the degree to which resources are being used efficiently to produce goods and services. Workers are more efficient when they produce more output in the same amount of time. This reduces the company's cost. More products are produced at every price, which shifts the supply curve to the right. When productivity falls, production costs go up. The supply curve shifts to the left. Technology determines the maximum physical quantity of output that can be reached, as well as the number and the quality of input quality required. Technology refers to the methods or processes used to make goods and services. New technology can speed up ways of doing things, which can cut a business's cost. This pushes the supply curve to the right, showing that the business is willing to supply more at the same price. Technological change is fast only in some industries, whereas many others is much more gradual. In any case, the diffusion of worse technology than that presently in use is a marginal and irrelevant phenomenon. Technology always improves. Physical productivity as well. Government actions can affect the cost of production, causing a change in supply. In general, tighter government regulations restrict supply, causing the supply curve to shift to the left. Relaxed regulations lower the cost of production, shifting the supply curve to the right. Government can intervene in markets in any number of ways, including the banning of the production and consumption of certain goods and services entirely. Government can also regulate heavily industries such as banking that it deems too sensitive to be left alone. To businesses, higher taxes mean higher costs, pushing the supply curve to the left. Lower taxes mean lower cost, shifting the supply curve to the right. A subsidy is a government payment to an individual, business, or other group for certain actions. A subsidy paid to a producer lowers the cost of production. This encourages current producers to remain in the market and new producers to enter. When subsidies are repealed, costs go up. Producers leave the market, and the supply curve shifts to the left. Supporting industries such as agriculture and education with subsidies like loans or inexpensive insurance increases supply, lowering price and increases quantity sold. Expectations. Producers' expectations also affect supply. If they expect strong consumer demand, they will produce more. If they expect weak demand, they will produce less. A change in the number of suppliers causes a change in market supply. As more firms enter an industry, they increase the supply in the market, shifting the curve to the right. If some suppliers leave, supply decreases, shifting the curve to the left. Supply elasticity is a measure of how the quantity supplied of a good or service changes in response to changes in price. If the quantity changes a great deal, When prices go up or down, the product is said to be supply elastic. If the quantity changes very little, the supply of that product is inelastic. Supply elasticity depends on how quickly a company can change the amount it makes in response to price changes. Products that cannot be made quickly or that are expensive to produce tend to be supply inelastic. Products that can be made quickly without large investments of money or skilled labor tend to be supply elastic. Elasticity of supply tells us how fast supply responds to quantity demand and price increase. When there is a popular product that is in short supply, for instance, the price may rise as a result. The manufacturers of that product will increase output, which is the supply, to keep up with the demand. The higher the elasticity of supply, the faster the supply will increase when demand and price increase. Some goods and services are more supply inelastic, however, whenever there is a supply shortage. Limited tickets to a concert may have a very inelastic supply. The price of the concert tickets may be raised to any amount, but because there is a fixed number of seats and tickets, the supply of tickets sold may not be increased by much, if at all.